What's up, guys? New episode of the Danny Beal Show. We have pitching coach Austin Knight on. AK is one of my closest friends. Been with him for 4 years, so had a great conversation. Talked about him growing up through the ranks in Mississippi, playing baseball, of course, getting the chance to go play at Ole Miss under Coach Godwin, his coaching trail through Arkansas, Louisiana, and obviously here at ECU. But great conversation, great human being. Lots of great conversations. It's a little bit of a long one after the holiday hiatus, so I hope you guys enjoy, and go Pirates. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Danny Beal Show. We took a little bit of a holiday hiatus, but we're back with a very special guest. My old pitching coach, but the current pitching coach at East Carolina. We have Austin Knight. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Danny.
How's it going?
You're good, man. I'm excited to be on the Danny Bill Show, man.
Yeah.
Did you name your own show? Or?
No, that was a conjunction of me and Ellerby, but it came down to Ellerby's last, and hey, it's worked so far, I guess.
Yeah, I've been thinking about some new names, but it's all good.
Well, hey, let's pitch them. What names?
I told you I've been thinking about. I was thinking about them this morning, and I was thinking maybe Washed Up You.
That was uncalled for. Ricochet shot.
The land down under.
That's a good one. I actually thought about that. It was like that painting corners.
Painting corners. Wow,
It's not bad.
that's kind of like
It's
a
not
cliche almost, though.
Yeah, I know. I feel like it's like too mainstream.
I was thinking about, like Saturday Night Live, Lorne Michael, he runs the deal. It's not the Lorne Michael show.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But I guess this is about you.
Maybe we'll rebrand it before the season starts. You'll be the
I actually think it's fine.
You'll be the catalyst. Yeah. Please God, don't change it yet. No. Well, good. Well, thanks for coming on. How have you been? Obviously, you guys just got back. Players got back like last week. But how's everything going? Obviously, the fall was great, I heard, and the spring's getting kicked off.
Yeah, it's been great. It's good to be back in Greenville. Like, any baseball coach, you just try to pack in as much as you can during December and through the new year.
Yeah.
My anniversary is in December. You got Christmas. My wife's birthday is January 8th. My son's birthday is January 13th. And so naturally, you're just running around with your head cut off a little bit. But it's nice to be back here after traveling a little bit, and then obviously the guys being back. For me, this is a fun time of year just because it's before obviously the chaos of the season starts, but you're back in the weeds and working with the guys every single day, and you're not having to worry so much about their performance on the field. It's just more so just the fun of just getting to work with the players.
I think it's cool too because it's an opportunity, especially the young guys. They're coming back from Christmas, and you get to see like the strides that they made over the break. I always know, at least when I was younger, it was a big deal of, hey, like don't take the next 4 weeks for granted when you left for Christmas break. It was a time to work and get better. And I'm assuming with a lot of new pitchers and a lot of new turnaround, which we'll get into here in a little bit, but that is, I'm sure, a point of emphasis going into the spring of like, hey, this is the time that we lock it in and we kind of fill roles and kind of determine what the beginning of the season looks like.
Yeah, it's really important because, as coming out of the fall, your freshman fall, it's so hard to really put a gauge on where these guys are at, because they're dealing with so much for the first time, right? I mean, and we're on them all the time, as you know, academically, off the field, on the field. And so it's just so hard because they're having so much that's thrown at them on a daily basis. It's so hard to figure out, like, hey, who actually are these guys, And so you start figuring that out November, December, and then they come back in January. And a lot of the guys look like, totally different players, which is awesome to see, because they've just realized that, hey, man, like, it's still the same rhythm game. Yeah. We can just slow down and play our game. And there's obviously a reason that these kids are here, And so it's nice to see. It's nice to see. And I felt like, from the freshman class, I've liked where everybody has been when they've come back, for the last couple of weeks. And so now you add the element of you start scrimmaging and things like that, and you'll get a better feel for it for sure.
Yeah, I was about to say, you guys start scrimmaging organized scrimmages with umpires and stuff this upcoming weekend, I believe, right? And it's a fun time. Preseason's always fun, especially as you get closer because you start putting jerseys on, we start playing real music. The organization of the pregame is much more detailed, and it's exciting, especially for the new guys who, we had 30 some odd new players come in this year.
Yeah, 31, I believe.
So it's like
a high number.
It's going to be no kidding. It's going to be new for everybody, but it's exciting. And one of the first questions I was going to ask was, with a lot of new turnover, specifically on the pitching side, and not having a lot of familiar faces for fans and stuff, what are you kind of most looking forward to, especially early, for guys to prove their worth and their roles early in the season?
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. Is that there's just a lot of inexperience there, but inexperience, you only get experience by going out there and doing it.
That's
right. Everybody's been in a position where they haven't had experience, and that doesn't necessarily deem if you're going to be successful or not. Now, the experience helps, certainly, whenever you've been in it and you understand what it looks like and the intensity of the game. But I think that's the exciting part about going into this season is you still have a handful of guys who have done it, right, and done it at a high level that are in our program now. But, we're going to be able to put some new looks out there, some new faces out there. And I think it's different if it's inexperience without a high level of talent. But the players that we brought in and the arms that we brought in,
studs.
like they're very, very talented and they have bright futures. Now, does that translate to them being All-Americans immediately? Of course not, right? But I think the future is bright for those guys, and they've done an awesome job of just taking everything in stride, being super coachable, learning on the go, and putting it into action. And so, I'm excited to see those guys get out there, and I'm excited for them to gain the experience that they need to help us be successful. And I've told a lot of people this, but, gauging if we're going to be really good at the beginning of the year, like whatever, right? But I think at the end of the year, you can look up and have a really good product.
That's exactly what it's funny you say, like, because every single time somebody's asked, like me or Trey or Carter, like, how do you think they're going to be this year? It's the same thing. It's like they have a lot of inexperience, but they're insanely talented. So whether the start, like March, April is rocky, it doesn't matter because they're going to be playing ball at the end of the year where and when it matters. So I think that's a big thing. And for all the people that like get upset that there's inexperience, like we have, at least East Carolina has been perennial for like having the same guys around. Like Pack was here, and then it transitioned to Burley, and then it transitioned to Zach, and then like you've always had these stale guys that are always here, always playing. And I think it's nice to kind of have a fresh start for once. Like there's a lot of guys that you don't know their names, but that's exciting. Like it's time to learn new guys, time to take advantage of the way that honestly college athletics is moving in the direction that it is. But you got to take advantage of it. You got to adapt with the times, and I think we're doing a good job of that. And time will tell, but it's, again, don't bet against Pirates.
Yeah, it's part of the landscape now. It is. And for us, we were so old last year. You had all the guys get drafted, and you had seniors and everything else, and then a couple guys who ended up leaving the program, and it's part of it, right? It's part of it now, and so you adapt with it. And I'm excited that we have the kids that we have here because they've been great. But you look up at the 22 season, we may have had a couple of more guys that have played, right? But not in the roles that they played in 22.
For sure.
Like the sailors.
We were going to talk about it later. Don't worry.
Yeah, but that's kind of my point. It's like
spot on.
All those guys stepped up into the roles that they had, and the year prior they weren't pitching or hitting in those roles.
Mayhew was a Friday night starter.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And Mayhew, of course, had success prior, but he had never taken on that kind of workload ever, And so it's just part of it, man. It's part of it. You live and you grow and you go and you figure it out, dude. And that's that's the exciting piece about this year for sure.
That's the way baseball is. But all right, enough about the Pirates for a little bit. Let's get into your life. Let's go to Little Austin, growing up in Mississippi.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm assuming played every sport possible, super athletic, and a sports family. I mean, you had pretty much every male family member you had coached or played in some form or fashion. I mean, you won 4 state championships in high school. Your dad was your coach. Like, get into, I guess, growing up in the South, which is heavy in every sport, nonetheless, football and baseball specifically. But what was growing up like in a sport-specific household and sport-specific state as well?
Yeah, and so I grew up in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, which the old heads here at East Carolina, they know that Southern Miss is there, and so that used to be a rivalry between East Carolina and Southern Miss, and so I actually I wouldn't. It's not necessarily I was a huge Southern Miss fan, but I grew up going to games, and so I watched the Seth Maness's pitch at Southern Miss because the conference tournament used to always be down there, and I'd go sit.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd go sit there for. I mean, like literally 16 hours and watch every team play whenever I was young, But growing up in that area, they call it the Pine Belt. It's like you said, it's very much a sports town and like specifically baseball. Yeah. And, I grew up in a household of 3 boys, so 2 other younger brothers. My dad was a high school coach for 30 years. And so I grew up at the baseball field. Now I played every sport because, like you just hit on, my grandfather, he was a college football coach at Louisiana College. He's in the Hall of Fame there. My uncle, I looked it up this morning, has actually been coaching college basketball at William Carey for 42 years. 42 years.
That's actually insane. That's he's been coaching twice as long as I've been alive.
Yeah, I know. I looked at it. I was like, dude, there's no way I'm coaching that long. What I mean?
Absolutely not. No way.
But, naturally, they've been really good always there, but he's the all-time winningest college basketball coach in any level in Mississippi. Yeah, sure. And, like really everyone in my family, played sports, but baseball was always kind of the sport. My grandfather was a college football coach, but he played in the farm league with the Yankees. My dad was a left-handed pitcher in the Braves organization. My uncle was a right-handed pitcher in the Mariners. So you
see, guys, pitching was always in the cards.
Yeah. It's always been something I'm drawn to. I just wasn't necessarily blessed
good at it
in that manner. It's not that I was bad. Yeah. It's just that I was 5'10", 5'11" on a good day.
You weren't given the tools.
And built like a catcher. Yeah. And so naturally, at an early age, they're just like, you're probably going to need to catch.
Yeah, go put the gear on.
I thought I was a shortstop, and so I still do. But
as everybody did when they were at age, for
sure.
Yeah,
that's right. But kind of similar to Greenville is that Hattiesburg was youth sports was really good, right? And grew up, playing with a bunch of really talented players, and like I said earlier, I grew up at the field. Like my spare time was at the field watching my dad's players or in the dugout during their games and, being the bat boy, but was exposed to some high level players. I mean, he had some really good players, some big leaguers, guys who played in the SEC at Southern Miss.
And for people that I don't know if you'll give him enough credit. His dad is like one of the greatest high school coaches, not only in Mississippi, like ever, like in the country, like 30 years of just dominance. So it is. He's got a very high pedigree, and like you said, been around guys that were doing it at a very high level.
Yeah, he coached for 30 years and won 10 state championships.
Yeah, that's not bad.
And at 2 different schools. He coached at 2 different schools. He was at Hattiesburg High for a long time, and then he moved out to where I went to school, Summerall High School. And you kind of hit on it. We won 4 state championships. At one point, I've won 67 games in a row. Finished 2 years #1 in the country nationally. And those, we'll get to that, but those years were pretty neat. And I'll say why, because like I said, with youth sports, I grew up playing with the same guys. Yeah. Like really, like my team was pretty much the same every single year. Yeah. And so where you guys experienced like your travel ball in high school a lot, that was like my growing up. From like the time I was 10 until I was in high school, I played with the same dudes. Well, my dad takes a job at Summerall High School, and a lot of those guys ended up coming over and playing at that high school.
Oh, really?
And so I played with really the same group from the time I was 8, 9 years old until I graduated high school. And so you talk about best friends, talk about guys who like, even though we weren't like the most talented team in the country, it was just like we were going to win. Yeah, you know what I mean?
67. I mean, you want to talk about showing up to the field knowing you're going to win the ball game? I mean, like that's crazy.
And there's not a better feeling than that. There's really not. You talk like the 20-game win streak we had. Dude. We just knew it didn't matter. We were going to win.
And we could have been playing the Yankees. We would have thought we were going to win.
I had to learn that that's not normal when I got into college a little bit because, when I got into college, we were playing good teams all the time. And, early on, we lost a couple games. I was like, what is happening?
What does this feel like?
I just thought we won everything
game.
Yeah. But again, super fortunate. I grew up, obviously my dad's a high school coach, but my mom is also an educator, kindergarten, first grade for, God bless her. She's still doing it, so a long time. And so I grew up in a household where, like discipline was key. Like you had to be good at your academics. You had to be like the sports stuff was always like the outlet. It was fun, you know. And my dad was not the guy that was going to be overbearing on me when it came to sports. He really, honestly, like when we got in high school, he really didn't coach me. We had another assistant on his staff that was with him for a long time that he was like, hey, you can handle this guy. And
my twerp son.
Yeah, and you can imagine, 15 to 18 years old, and I mean, just thought I was way better than I actually was.
Yeah, no. Well, everybody does that, especially when your dad's the coach. I mean, you talk about like nowadays, especially with like daddy ball and stuff, but I feel like back then when you have a good enough team around you, it's like, dude, we don't care because it doesn't matter who plays, where, when. We'll play in a parking lot.
Yeah, and it was never like that was never the case. Like any good coach, it never mattered.
Exactly.
It's like you understood that if you weren't good enough to play, you weren't going to play. But grew up in that household where discipline was key, academics mattered, working hard mattered, and both my parents, they came from very humble roots, right? This is my dad was the youngest of 5 brothers, and my mom. My mom was the youngest of 4 siblings, and she grew up in a household where her dad passed away at a very young age. So she grew up in really a single mom household, right, where she had to work extremely hard. And so that's kind of the backbone of my family. It's just hard work, do what you got to do, be humble. And kind of go, but everything matters, right? Like the academics matters. You being a good person off the field matters. You going to church on Sunday matters,
little
right?
Things, yeah.
Yeah, and so was fortunate to have those, those ties growing up, and then, obviously we talked a lot about high school. Like that's the easy stuff to talk about, but, but that's really the roots of who I am as a human being came from really that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I feel like a lot of the guys that I've had on, I mean, you talk about Blake and his family, Coach G and his family, like there's so many testimonies about how important their, youth was growing up, whether it was good or bad stories. Like you always learning from them and lessons and stuff. And it's the same thing with you. And it has proven to pay dividends with your playing career and your coaching career too, of just how important those little things were to get you to where you are at this point.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it sets you up for understanding. And there's always another level when you're off on your own where you're figuring things out, right? But that did put me in a place where you could handle probably more, and of course, being a coach's son, you understood the game better when you're there. But growing up in that sort of environment, like you knew right from wrong. It's like you weren't going to go off and make bad decisions in college because you're. I mean, it's not going to be good if you get in trouble off the field. You know what I mean? You ain't got to worry about the coaches because Pam Knight's going to be coming up and it ain't going to be good.
You never want to get the text, hey, I'm coming to Oxford. Be in your room.
And that's the thing. Even though like my dad was a coach, my mom was like the disciplinarian in the household.
She laid the hammer for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. No question.
That's the way best moms are. Well, obviously, I mean, in high school, tremendous accolades, and being able to do it with the guys you grew up with was even more special. But you get the chance to play in college, but the recruiting process was tricky.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, I guess, getting recruited to obviously play at a great SEC school, but being from Hattiesburg and how the whole process went.
Yeah, it was interesting, because I had two of my best friends were going to Southern Miss. A guy that I grew up with that was literally my next door neighbor, like my whole high school career, and like truthfully, that's where I wanted to go. And
you grew up there, like you said.
Yeah. And like I would have probably, like, if they'd offered me a walk-on spot, I probably would have taken it. You know what I mean? Yeah, sure. And that was because I thought I was good enough to as well. But they didn't really recruit me, and I understand why, because my dad being a high school coach, they didn't want to like muddy the waters if it didn't work out.
Sure.
And then Mississippi State recruited me a little bit. A guy we'll talk about in a little while, Lane Burrows, who is the head coach at Louisiana Tech. He was a recruiting coordinator there, and Butch Thompson was the pitching coach, who's now the head coach at Auburn. They recruited me a little bit, man, and again, like I thought I was a lot better than what I was, and looking back,
seems to be a consistent theme here.
Yeah, looking back, I probably wouldn't have recruited me. You know what I mean? Like average player. Heady, like I was not a talented player. I was like a skillful player.
Right.
You know what I mean? But they recruited me a little bit, but I ended up it was never like an offer that I was going to actually take. It was mainly walk-on stuff and things of that nature. And so I ended up committing and signing with Meridian Community College in Mississippi. And now they had like a really rich history at that point of big leaguers, sending guys to play Division I baseball at a really high clip. And the head coach there, his name is Chris Curry. He's actually who I worked for at Arkansas Little Rock.
Yep.
So he had just gotten the head coaching job at Meridian, and I was really the first guy that he called and wanted to recruit. He was coming from Arkansas. They had just come off going to the College World Series. James McCann was their catcher, who's still in the big leagues, right? And so I was like, yeah, perfect. Like, this is where I want to go if I'm not going to get the offer that I want from a Division I school, because again, I thought I was really good, and like, which I thought I was really good. And I was like, yeah, I'll go there for like a year, and then I'll just get signed or get drafted, like any immature kid would say, And so was committed there. Was excited about going there. Had a really good senior year. I was a late draft out of high school, and mainly because we had a third rounder on our team, and they saw me hit a couple home runs.
Yeah, exactly.
And that
shout out the Phillies.
Yeah, and that's when the draft was so long. They were just like,
yeah,
that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he looks good. Yeah.
And so I was a late draft.
It was what, like 40-something, 43rd or something like that?
43rd. I think 43rd is right.
Oh, look at me.
Know better. It was like, the scout came to our house. It's actually the same scout that drafted Henry Lartigue out of Ole Miss.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so he came to my house, and he's just like, yeah, I mean, like, you're not going to sign, right? It's like, so, yeah,
trust me, don't.
Yeah. And it's like, we'll follow you, but, go do your thing. And after that, but with that draft, it was Ole Miss had a junior college catcher that was drafted and signed. Mm-hmm. And so they were in need of a catcher, because I think they had 2 catchers on their team at that point.
Oh, okay.
And none of them who had really played, And so Carl Lafferty gave me a call in the middle of the summer, and was like, hey, man, like, we need a catcher. Are you playing any this summer? I'm like, no. I wasn't. I was like, no, I'm not playing. I was not planning on playing. He's like, well, I'm going to be in Atlanta if you want to go play. I'm talking about, like, I hadn't thrown a ball. I hadn't taken a rep. It was like the opposite of, like.
Game ready, yeah.
Yeah, game ready. And I was like, all right, sure, I'll be there, And
at that point, why not?
And I think they were just like in such a tough spot. They're just like, whatever,
he's got a good lineage.
Yeah, but he showed up there, and I actually fooled him and hit a home run in one of the games. And 2 days later, I'm on a visit there, and they offered me a scholarship and end up committing. And funny, like, on that official visit, Ole Miss had just hired a new hitting coach. You know what his name was?
CG23?
Yeah, CG23. And so Coach Godwin's first recruiting visit at Ole Miss was me.
You just wait. There's some more full circle stuff with all of the Ole Miss ties. You just wait.
Yeah. And so I remember the first time, I had no idea who Coach was.
He was from Florida. And he'd been in other places.
He had been around, and he'd done things, but I didn't know, right? And I went to Omaha that year, just like almost as like a senior trip type deal to go see all that stuff. And I remember Laugh called me when I was in the hotel. I was like, he's like, we just hired a new hitting coach, and his name's Cliff Godwin, and he's tough, and this and that.
Who the hell is Cliff Godwin?
I was like, I was like, cool, man. Sick. Like, sounds good. Where do I sign?
Exactly, yeah.
And I remember, we went to eat at a place called Bourrée on the square there that night, and he was talking about hard work, and I was like, I've worked hard, man. I played in a good high school, and fast forward like 3 months later, and I'm like,
getting absolutely buried. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, that's kind of the recruiting story, honestly. Like that was in a time where you look up now, and these kids are committed at the latest now, it's like the fall of their junior year, or the spring of their junior year. Yeah. The week before, I was at orientation for Meridian Community College. You know what I mean? Like, with my teammates. And then the next week, I'm going to a different college in July.
I don't think anybody's gonna be like, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that." Like, it's Ole Miss.
No, for sure, absolutely not. Yeah. But it just shows how different things were.
Seriously, that would never happen nowadays.
No,
not even
make a decision to go to a college in July when you start school in August.
No, of course not. What did Coach Curry say when you were like?
Oh, he told me to. Told me to sign. That's because I had a ton of respect for him, because he was so good to me in the recruiting process, and was really good to me after I got done in college, which we'll get to. But we called him and was like, hey man, like, we respect you. We respect your opinion. What is your thoughts on this? Here's the scholarship offer. Here's like, what do you think? And he told me to go and do it,
That's huge. Yeah.
and which I thought was, awesome of him.
Yeah, no, for sure. This episode is also brought to you by the 23 Club. 23 Club is the Team Boneyard Collective. It's this exclusive NIL initiative for ECU baseball. It is spearheaded by former Pirate players and led by Mike Harrington, who graduated in 2004. But the 23 Club is your chance to help the next generation of Pirates succeed on and off the field. Join us as we empower student athletes to excel while preserving ECU baseball's proud tradition of excellence and winning. You can visit the 23 Club at 23club.org to learn more and become part of the club today. Together, we're swinging for greatness, obviously, and 23club.org. Ran by great people, support us in a big way, and hopefully you guys can go out there and support them with all the initiatives and the meetings and the memberships they will have getting into the spring and ahead of opening day. So I hope you guys enjoy. It's relationships like those, which I'll ask you about later, but it's like those things you can't take for granted because, again, it comes back, like not burning that bridge and being like mishandling the situation or whatever the case may be, but being able to handle that and him being like, yeah, dude, go. And then you working with him later. It's like those kind of relationships and those memories and moments and all that stuff, it pays dividends in the end because, like you said, I mean, it's going to come full circle here in a second when we talk about all the crazy teammates that you've had at Ole Miss that ended up coaching here, and it's just it's crazy. Yeah,
especially in our industry, man. Like the baseball industry is super tight. It's super close knit, super tight, and you just don't know. How you impact people. It could offer an opportunity later on in life for sure. But it also helped that Chris was from Arkansas. He's from Little Rock. Laugh is also from Arkansas, so they knew each other. So they were communicating through the process, and so it didn't put me in a bad spot.
Yeah, it made you probably significantly less stressful of being like, oh God, are they going to get mad or anything like that because they knew each other. But, you played 4 years, all under Coach G.
Mm-hmm. Well, 3 years under Coach G.
3 years under Coach G, and then obviously all under Coach Bianco and Laugh. But what was, obviously the culmination of it all was Omaha in 2014, but what was, I guess, obviously playing in Ole Miss is an unbelievable feat within itself because there's only like a 0.1% that people that play in the SEC. But I was joking with Coach G when he was on. We always, like me, Cam, and a bunch of other guys, were like obsessed with the season, and we'd always go back and watch old videos of like you and Colby and even a little bit of Henry of just seeing you guys in your element and you guys in college. It was just what was being able to play at an SEC school like. Obviously, growing up in Hattiesburg too, of kind of being the rival of Ole Miss,
right?
And it's like, what was the experience like? What was playing under Coach Godwin like? What were the 4 years like?
It was transformative for me. Like it was such a big part of my life because I needed to get away from home. I don't think you know that whenever you're young, but like being off on your own is really important. But it was transformative in so many different elements. But it was a tremendous experience. And that comes from a guy who didn't play every day. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like my first 3 years, I was very much a role player. And my last year, I ended up being able to start my last year. But in a day and age where it's easy to transfer and things like that, I would never, ever want to take that experience away, right? Like, I don't care. It doesn't matter now how much I played in college. No. It was the people that I was around with, like Coach Bianco, who was just tremendous. And the best compliment I can give to him is he was just the same dude every single day, right? And like, he wasn't going to be your buddy. He wasn't going to be like, you could talk to him still, but he would like. He was a CEO. He was the coach.
Yeah,
he's your coach, right? Exactly. And you knew where he stood every day, and he demanded the best out of you every single day, right? And he was tremendous. Like, he showed me so much when it comes to running a program with the system and the organization of it. Like, he was just so organized with everything. You always knew what you had. There was never any miscommunication, right? And how our practices were the same every day, right? And so he was awesome, and I still take things away from him, and he's great now. You know what I mean? Like, as a player, you're like, this guy, he can be tough at times. But like, if I called him right now and asked him to do something for me, he would
drop of a hat.
Yeah, he would do it, which is awesome because that's what real loyalty is. You don't need like people to like always talk to you all the time, and the people who are willing to do things for you whenever I can't do anything for Coach Bianco right now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what he would call me and ask me to do for him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if I asked him to do something, it would be no questions asked. He would do it, right? And so I thought that was neat. And then like with Coach G, it was it was awesome. It was early on as it's the same as it is here as a freshman. You're like, holy cow, man, this guy is
hardcore,
intense, in your face all the time. Oh, yeah. And even back then, it's probably another level.
It was just there's no doubt it was another level for sure.
And he was an assistant, and so he took on that role. But he the thing that I will say is he's really, really hard on you, but you always knew where you stood, and you also always knew that he loved you and cared for you. And I remember there's so many times that I would, I'd text him or call him and say, hey man, like, you want to hit tonight or whatever. It'd be 7 o'clock. He'd be throwing not bullpens. He'd be throwing BP in the cages until we were good. Right. And then the next day you got to be ready for practice.
Yeah.
Because like he was my catching coach. He was my hitting coach. He was my academic coach. He was all of that for me. And so like that first freshman fall, I was just like overwhelmed by it because it was just tough. But then I'm like, this, like things are getting easier, you
appreciate it the older you get.
And dude, like, and obviously like this is a whole different, just like I could talk about Coach for hours and what he's done for me and what he's done for my family. Like it is unbelievable. But back then it just like, he was like the guy that showed me how to be more mentally tough, and not by like sitting here and saying, hey, this is what you have to do, but just because you had to wake up the next day and be ready to go to the field knowing you're going to get rocked in practice,
probably get your ass kicked.
You're going to get your tail kicked in practice, and you're going to get your tail kicked in weights, and you're going to wake up and you're going to do it again the next day, and you're going to have a smile on your face.
And you're going to like it. Yeah, exactly.
And so the freshman year, the relationship was fine. You know what I mean? It was always good. And then, as it grows, you start to understand, like, okay, I get what he's doing. I understand what the point was here. And so, like, even when he left there after we went to Omaha to come here and be the head coach, like, I was so excited for him. I was like, that's so cool, right?
Alma mater.
But also, like, nothing changed for me when he was gone. Like the way that I went about my practice, the way that I went about my work, like at that point, because he had instilled so much in us as players, like there was only one way we knew how to play, and there was only one way we knew how to practice, right? It was probably tougher for the freshmen in 2015 because they didn't have that same type of environment.
And you probably held them to such a high standard.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. It's like you're trying to explain, like, this is not how it looks, right? And so it was tough with those things. But, like, for us older guys, like, nothing changed. We just continued to do the same things. And so it was transformative for me, like of learning how to just handle failure, honestly, like, cause I'd never really experienced that before.
Yeah. And it's funny that you bring up loyalty and stuff. Cause like if there's a certain level of buy-in to, yes, it does suck, but if you care and notice that he's doing this because he wants you to be great. He's doing this because he wants you to love you, or he wants to love you, or he does love you, whatever. He is doing this because he wants the team to be great, but he cares more about the relationship. Like he even mentioned, and he's said this 100 times before, he's like, I don't care if we ever go to Omaha. Yeah. Obviously, it'd be great. It's what the goal is, obviously, for the team. But as long as I can make you a better person and a better baseball player, that's all I care about.
100%.
And the loyalty aspect of it is like, you have to have a certain level of care and buy-in, because if you even have a slip of a thought for a second of, I can't do this, or I don't want to do this, or I don't want to be here anymore, you're done, because he's just going to bury you.
Yeah.
You always have to be on your toes of X, Y, Z, whatever it is, but it's in the guys that leave and they're the guys that it doesn't work out for. It is telltale on mental toughness and guys that just they didn't have the right mindset going into it.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, it is this is an awesome place to play, but truly it's not for everybody.
No, it's not.
And I don't think it's like super hard. It's like simple things that you have to be good at. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be great at your academics. You got to be a good dude. You got to be coachable. You got to work hard. Like, truly. Like,
if you want to win important games and important things, that's what it takes.
So basically, you got to do what I would consider the bare minimum to be elite. Right?
Yeah, no, literally.
Like, truly. Like, that's what it takes. And so it's not like it's like some over complexity where we're asking people to do like just outlandish things.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And so, but that's why Coach Godwin's great. You know what I mean? Because he does care, man, like he does. And over time, I've just seen his role change so much because of the landscape, but also I've seen his demeanor change. Obviously, his face changed at a high level, and now he's just like he's there for those guys even more. You know what I mean? And the off the field stuff has become so important for him. What's going on in your life, and are you? Can I help you with anything? Like I've seen that change. Whereas probably before that it was like, hey man, like we got to work hard, we got to win, we got to do all these things.
And it's every single person that I've had on them, we've talked about him, has said the same thing about how the arrow is pointing in the right direction for how his life has changed in his terms of mindset and, like you said, his faith, and obviously getting engaged is a massive step for him. And it's crazy.
It's awesome.
If you would have asked me 3 years ago, was Coach Godwin ever going to get married? I would have. No, not a chance.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and Bree's great too. So it's
a good thing
stuff,
for him.
Man.
Yeah,
awesome.
for sure. Well, you obviously get to go to Omaha, play in 2014, get to play a couple games because Will Allen got hurt, but finish up playing in 2015. What was, like, baseball ends, crashing halt. What is the first thought? Is it always like, I knew I was going to be a coach? Do I want to keep playing? Is there an opportunity to keep playing? What was kind of the mindset, and was it, were you freaking out a little bit? Did you have an idea of what you wanted to do?
It's probably not so dissimilar to kind of what you're going through right now. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, now the difference is I knew I wanted to coach, and I'll kind of get to that in a minute, but I finished up my senior year and I really thought I was going to be drafted. I played well in the SEC play, and I'm like, I'm a catcher. Like they always need catchers.
Yeah, exactly.
And then didn't get drafted through however many rounds it was then. And, and that was the moment where it was like, oh man, it's like you're obviously in tears.
I've been there.
Yeah. You're upset. This has been my whole life. I don't know anything without it. But I'm also a little ticked off that I didn't get drafted, right? I'm a little pissed. And so like I started getting calls, we started getting calls from scouts asking if I wanted a free agent sign. And I was like, well, why didn't you draft me? You know what I mean? And
it's true,
so I don't know if it's like an immature route.
No, that's unfair. That's so unlike you, though.
Yeah, come on. I probably let the ego get in the way a little bit, but I'm also like, it's another God thing, is like not getting that opportunity got me started on my coaching routes earlier. And I knew, like, I was like, dude, you're like, I'm not going to be a big leaguer. And so do you want to go and catch on the complex leagues for a couple of years and wear it? Or do you want to get started doing what you want to do? And so, ended up, in my opinion, making a good decision. There's, again, I don't think I was going to be a big leaguer, but it would probably been a good experience to go play.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But I don't know where that leads, of course, right?
Are you here right now?
I don't know. You never know that. And so I had an opportunity to go from Ole Miss. I finished my degree in the summer after the season because I failed a class my spring.
Stay hot, attaboy. Nice.
It was a hard class, man.
I'm sure it was.
It was a hard class.
Yeah,
lunch.
Okay? Lunch is a hard class.
But I had to retake that, and then had an opportunity to go be then it's called a graduate manager at Arkansas Little Rock for Chris Curry, who was the head coach at Meridian, right? And I'm like, let's roll.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have no idea like what this entails.
But dude, opportunity with a guy you know.
That's right. And you got to remember, like, I was at Ole Miss, and that was almost, that would have been 14 years ago when I started at Ole Miss now. Getting old. 20, yeah, I know, dude. But at that point, it's like, we had everything taken care of for us,
no, for sure.
And now it's at a whole different level with everybody. But for me, I'm like, dude, we had everything that we needed, and
which
no issues.
Like you said, it was hard to come by back then, because it's like the SEC is obviously held to a super high standard, but like that was tip top. Like not many other people had what they had.
That's right.
And then going to Arkansas Little Rock was D1.
It's D1.
So like let's not make it seem like this is like a JUCO or something. Like Arkansas Little Rock, your program.
It was a startup though. It was Coach Curry's second year, and they had really got their first class in. Yeah. And so they were figuring out their identity and who they were, and their players and what they wanted it to look like, and all those things. So it's like anything when you're starting at a new place. The first year it's like you're trying, obviously keep your head above water to a certain extent and start getting your culture in. Then after that, you start bringing your guys in at times, and that was what I needed as a coach, because I didn't know it at the time. Because I was like, I'm going to coach. I'm going to go.
Better, yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm going to go help these players get better. But the reality, what they needed was a guy to come in, coach the catchers, take care of the field, do the laundry. I was I was quote unquote RA as well. I stayed in student housing.
Dude.
Now my duties,
You gotta do what you gotta do, but
my duties with that were super limited. You know what I mean?
Right,
it was basically make sure the baseball players weren't getting in trouble
Yeah,
and all that
fair
stuff.
enough.
But it was student housing. You know, they needed help with, you know, anything, fundraising, operations, and you know, my first year I probably didn't understand that at the highest level.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, you know, I want to go throw BP. I want to go hit a fungo. I want to go do all the baseball stuff. But so much of coaching is not even the baseball stuff.
No, dude.
You know what I mean?
So much behind the scenes mental aspect. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and now they have more people on staff now than, but back then it was Chris Curry, it was Russell Raley, who's an assistant coach at Oklahoma now. It was Roland Fanning, who is the head coach at Austin Peay now. It was Matt Farmer, who was our volunteer assistant, who ran our camps and did a lot of our operations, and it was me. That was it. There was no student managers.
That's unreal.
There was nothing else. You know what I mean? And so
that's a lot of weight on 5 guys.
Yes, but that's the hard thing now is like with the third assistant, it's really good for helping people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
no,
It's
for
really
sure.
good, but like you learn so much about yourself whenever you have to do a lot of things. You know what I mean? Like those first 2 years, there's no way I'm here without those first 2 years, even though I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
And fortunately, like we got to a place where we were super competitive. We were in the Sun Belt. We finished second in the Sun Belt
Which
my
is
first year there.
Sun Belt baseball, really, really good.
Yes.
Like it's not
Yes.
like every other sport where it's like iffy. Sun Belt baseball is awesome.
And I can take no credit for us being good. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Okay.
I was like, you know, I'd catch in the bullpens. I'd run the walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
Like, I did nothing to help us win games. I mean, there's a couple games like I stole sign, but like it's not like I was running the offense or calling pitches or
Hey, you're
anything
part of
like
it, though.
that.
Part of it.
I was
Don't sell
certainly a
yourself short.
part of it, but I can't take any credit for it. You know, we had a really, really good offense that first year in 2016, and we banged our way some wins. And then 2017, we were competitive again. And but again, it was like I needed to go there and learn, right? I needed to go there and be humbled a little bit, right? Get taken off of this. I played at an unbelievable place pedestal and all those things, and just get back to bottom. Hey, nobody cares anymore.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? No, nobody cares anymore.
There's no standards.
That's right. And so, you know, I went there and just come my second year, probably some point in the fall, I figured out that, hey, you just need to be really good at doing these mundane things. Don't worry about anything else.
Right.
Be really good at cutting the grass. You know what I mean? Be really good at doing the laundry. Be really good. I ended up taking over the scouting perspective. So be good at the scouting reports.
Sure.
Be good at handling the pancake breakfast fundraiser that we're going to have a couple of times. Like seriously, that's real.
But like you said, that is stuff that has to be taken care of.
Yes,
You're absolutely right.
it has to. And so I was just fortunate that I was able to learn that at really an early age. And like I said, a lot of coaches don't get to do that anymore, you know, because, and whether that's good or bad, I have no opinion on it, but I know that it was beneficial for me, you know, because I needed that.
At the same time, though, you got to coach in the Cape with the Red Sox,
Yes.
which is also a great experience because you're around dudes that are going to be big leaguers. And it's at the same time, it's like, all right, the mundane things, the pancake breakfast fundraiser, all this stuff, yes. But then you get to go up to the Cape and you are coaching and you're around dudes. Like you coached Nico Horner.
Yes,
like,
Nico Horner.
Great ball player.
A lot of really good ones, man.
Couple catchers that were...
Yeah, there was a handful of them, man.
Yeah.
And that's just the way the Cape is,
Yeah.
especially back then. Now it's watered down and different now just because of everything that's going on with the portal and the draft and things like that. But like that was my outlet. That was what I looked forward to.
Yeah.
You know, because
It's fun.
we had an awesome head coach up there. His name's Scott Pickler. He still coaches up there. Norby's going to play for him this summer.
That's gonna be sweet.
And he's been doing it for forever. He's in the Cape Cod Hall of Fame. He was a junior college head coach out in California at Cypress Community College. And the theme that we're going to start getting into, around this is that he was super empowering. Like he wanted you to go coach. Go coach. Go do it. Go do your job. Like if you're not working hard, you're not going to do your job. And I know this is crazy. This is Cape Cod. This is Summer League baseball. But that's how he runs it up there. It's like you're going to be there in the morning hitting with the guys. You're going to be there getting ready, getting the field ready. It's not all, whatever.
It's not sexy, but
no, it is, but it's you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
It's like, it's not like you're showing up and you're just
rolling the balls.
Rolling the ball. He was detailed. He put in his system. Yeah. He put in the way that we run the games, like all that stuff, right? And that was my outlet because it was so pure. It was so pure of you just woke up and you live baseball with unbelievable players, mind you.
Yes, like studs.
Like they don't need you to help them. Really.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a couple of guys that certainly we helped along the way, definitely, but they were already really good players. Yeah. And so you're sitting there like, I taught them that.
It's all me. It's all me. Yeah, it's all my credit.
Which is crazy, But yeah, I had a bunch of guys from those two teams have made it to the big leagues, and a couple of them who are sitting big leaguers, and like you said, Nico and Chris Bubik, who was a left-handed pitcher. He's
Royals.
Yeah, with the Royals. I mean, there's a lot of them. Kevin Smith, who played at Maryland. Connor Kaiser, I think, has made it up to the big leagues. There's, like I said, we can go on and on because the people who have made it up there, there's a bunch of them. But it was such an awesome experience. And back then I was just, I was young and I was single and it was fun.
The life. Yeah. Literally. It's stuff you make movies about, like living on the Cape, playing baseball all summer. Literally. Coach, it's awesome. It's the best.
And so those 2 summers were awesome, and it's like, I would love to do that again at some point in my life, when I get older, but it was a unique opportunity, and that came across because of Coach Curry. Coach Curry actually played for Pickler in the summer. And so just another thing,
connections,
another benefit of all of it. And so, throughout this whole deal, I've been able to be around really good coaches and really good men. You know what I mean? Like both of them, not just good coaches, like really good coaches, really good men who have empowered me to honestly to have confidence in what I'm doing.
Yeah, and you get a great opportunity after Little Rock with another guy that you've mentioned even previously in the show of that you have taken a lot of lessons and a lot of tactics from in Coach Burrows at La Tech. But first of all, what was the move like to get there? Like, I'm assuming there was a process of like, all right, when do I go? How do I go? What does it look like down there? But what was the move like from Little Rock to La Tech, and was it an easy decision? Like, was it like, yeah, I'm there, or what was that like?
Well, yeah, at Little Rock, I had finished my master's degree, and so I didn't have a position, technically, and so I was kind of in limbo, but I was only in limbo for like a week or so. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was, so Lane Burrows, he recruited me at Mississippi State, but he also coached at Southern Miss for a long time. So he knew my family. I've known him for, gosh, I mean, I'm 32 now, probably 20 years.
I was about to say probably since you were in like middle school, maybe.
Yeah,
high school,
no, even before then. Yeah. Like, and he really, honestly, it was such a simple thing. I didn't interview for the job. He just called me. It was a volunteer assistant, so he just called me whenever I was home in between our season finishing and before I went to the Cape, and was like, hey, we got a volunteer job open, are you interested? And I was like, yeah,
sounds good.
Yeah, like I'm in. Like, what do you need? I'm going to the Cape. He's like, do you like coaching in the Cape? I was like, yeah, I love coaching in the Cape. He's like, all right, well, you're going to do that this summer, and then we'll kind of reconvene. I was like, sounds good.
You're the best. Thank you.
So hang on. I didn't know for a couple. I was like, so are you actually offering me the job?
I have a spot there, right? Just making sure.
Yeah, but again, it like back then it was so pure, and I was young. Like, I had no idea how much money I was going to be making. Yeah, no idea where I was going to be living. No clue about any of it.
That's daunting.
Yeah, and I was just like, yeah, sounds good. We're in. Let's do it. And so
it's so funny you say, like, because Blake, when he moved, said the same. He's like, I don't know where I'm going to live. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to go and we're going to figure it out.
Yeah, that's part of this industry when you're young. It's like opportunities arise and you either jump on them or you don't. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so. And really, dude, those 2 years at Louisiana Tech, like, I loved it. I loved it there, man. It was awesome. It was a small town. It reminded me of my hometown a little bit.
It's Ruston, right?
Ruston. Yeah, okay. Yeah, which crazy thing. So my grandfather, he finished coaching and he was a professor at Louisiana Tech for a couple years. So my dad was born in Ruston. I had never been to Ruston, Louisiana, but my dad was born in Ruston, Louisiana. My dad was a giant Steelers fan, is a giant Steelers fan because Terry Bradshaw played at Louisiana Tech, right? And so I had never been to Ruston, Louisiana, ever, but my dad was born there. And then I look up and I'm coaching there for 2 years, right?
Crazy.
but it was awesome, man. Like the community was great. We had good environments at our games. We were pretty good, but our staff was just
elite. Awesome people. Yeah.
Awesome people. So much fun to be around. And Lane, it starts with Lane. Lane is he's an awesome competitor, but he was never like the guy that had to take himself too seriously or anything. You know, like we were always. I had an office, but I never used my office. I just sat in his office all the time and did our work. Yeah. And again, another coach who just let us do our jobs, man. Like just empowered us to do our jobs. He told me immediately, he's like, I hired you to go coach and you do your job.
Yeah, I'm
not
gonna helicopter coach.
Yeah, he at no point did we ever like, hey, how are you coaching these guys? Yeah. He just watched and believed in what we were doing and rolled with it. You know what I mean? But even then, and you know, when I got there, it was still, you know, it was me, it was Corey Barton, who's the pitching coach in Memphis now. It was Travis Krill, who's the recruiting coordinator at Southern Miss now, and it was me, no director of operations. And
again, a lot of weight on just a few dudes just to figure it out.
Yeah, and I think we had a couple of student managers, luckily, so laundry was done at that point. Yeah. But we split all the operation stuff. So like Corey did the hotels. I did, you know, all the equipment, all the food ordering, all of that stuff. Right. And like all the, you know, flights and buses and things of that nature. And so, but also got to coach a lot more then. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm coaching catchers. I'm helping the hitters. I'm helping out with the pitchers. And we also, another guy who's been really influential in my life, Mike Silva, who's the head coach at Arkansas State now, and was the head coach at Nicholls State for the last 2 years, took them to 2 NCAA. Yeah. But that's a tough place to win at.
Yeah, no kidding.
And took them to 2 regionals the last 2 years. One of the best coaches I've ever been around. But he was our pitching coach my second year at Little Rock. And then we brought him over when Corey got the job, pitching coach job at Rice.
Jeez,
and we brought Mike Silva over to Louisiana Tech. And another dude who was just like, he's just a stud, man, like stud, like, you know, really good at relating and coaching our players hard, being super honest, but he wanted me to help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he wanted, like for me, I was like, oh, heck yeah, let's roll.
Yeah, exactly.
Wanted me to help with the pitchers. And that's kind of like as the love for pitching started, you know, it started my second year in the Cape and then it just
developed it, and kept going,
And so, but those 2 years, it was honestly like so hard. We'll get to coming here, but it was so hard for me to leave Ruston, Louisiana.
I was about to say, I feel like as the older you get and the more you get under your belt in terms of coaching and develop more relationships, I feel like it gets harder and harder to leave every place you stop at. Not that I'm saying you're leaving here anytime soon, obviously not, but like I feel like at Arkansas, I was like, all right, well, I don't really have a choice. I'm leaving. Like I have to. It makes sense for me. It is what it is. You only spent 2 years there.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like I get the position, I get to go coach with Coach Sheep, but dude, come on. Like it's just tough.
It was hard. It was really tough. And because I never looked at this coaching thing as like I have to coach at whatever level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've always said it is that I want my family to have stability. I want us to be at a place that we can win at. You know what I mean? And so whenever you become connected to the people that are around you and you love the people that are around you, like it makes, if you're having to make a decision like that, it makes it really, really hard. Right. And so like, I remember it was such a quick process when I got the job here. But when I left, when I was driving out of Ruston, Louisiana, I was in tears, bro. Like I was, you know what I mean? Like I was so upset.
It's hard.
And it was tough too, because me and Taylor had recently gotten engaged and she was living in Hattiesburg. I was in Ruston. I was like 3.5 hours away. Well, now I'm going to move across the country, basically.
You ever heard of Greenville, North Carolina, hun?
Yeah. And which she was like, yeah, I'm all in. Let's do whatever.
Which is huge.
Yes.
Huge.
But it was hard because we had a pretty good little niche at that point, you know.
Hope you guys are enjoying the episode so far, but sponsor on this episode, it is Tiebreakers. Tiebreakers is open every day at 11 a.m. and is the best place to watch your favorite sports while enjoying the best wings in town. They also offer sandwiches, appetizers, cold beer, and a bunch of other stuff as well. Ran by great people. The Andersons are awesome, but you can follow them on Tiebreakers on Facebook and Instagram for daily updates. Tiebreakers is in Greenville at Bell's Fork on Greenville Boulevard and in downtown Winterville on Railroad Street. Thank you guys over at Tiebreakers. I'm curious, one, to hear how the conversation went about him your coach trying to get you to come here. But like you just said, you kind of hit on it, like the decision process of like pulling your hair out of like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And it's obviously in hindsight, you probably made the right decision.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's no question.
Considering everything that's happened and getting the pitching coach job and all that stuff. But I was going to bring up Taylor. Like it's hard to be like, yeah, you chase your dream and we'll figure it out. Like it's difficult, especially not saying that there wasn't any stability, but it's like, it's scary staring down the barrel of not knowing what you're going to do in the next couple months, in the next couple years.
Yeah, she's the most selfless person I've ever known. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's unbelievable. And now she's, of course, I'm still a coach, and I've got a 3-year-old, and so I'm gone a lot, but she never complains about it. She's just so selfless and so loving and so supportive. And so it's never really been an issue, honestly, but I'm fortunate when it comes to that, dude, because I've seen the coaching industry is hard on marriages, and you see a lot of people who struggle with that or get divorces or things of that nature. Like, I'm not going to have to worry about that because of how awesome my wife is.
Yeah. Taylor's a stud. Yeah. She obviously pretty much everybody on the coaching staff now has a significant other. I mean, with marriages or engagement or whatever it is, but there's the group of wives that we have at the state, dude, studs. Like the amount of kids that are always constantly running around, like the selflessness that they have to go through. Like you said, mentioning being a coach's wife is one of the hardest jobs in America, and you're not even like, it's just over the top. But no, what I was saying was the fact that she was able to be like, yes, do it. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah, huge for your guys' relationship and your career too.
Unbelievable. But unbelievable for sure.
What was the process of getting to come here? Like, was it just like a, hey, Austin, you want to come be a Pirate? Or like, what was the conversation
kind
like?
Of, honestly, like, this was always a place that I had circled, because of Cliff and because of what he was doing here. And at that point it was 2019, and so they just hosted that regional. I watched every game of that regional. Like, it was the only regional that I watched. We weren't in a regional. We didn't make one. And so I was sitting there and I was just watching, and I just loved it. Loved the environment. I'd never been here, but it was a place that I always wanted to come because
intriguing,
of Cliff, right? It was always intrigued by it. And things are crazy. So the spring of 2019, our stadium was destroyed by a tornado.
I remember that, yeah.
And I was a volunteer assistant. And so, like, that summer, I was just like, I was everywhere. I was just traveling around trying to make any sort of money, just because obviously camps weren't the same, because we didn't have our stadium, And so...
which for a volunteer assistant, camps are one of, if not the biggest source of income for you guys.
It's really your... only source,
income, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we still ran camp at Ruston High School, and in that year we even finished a weekend series at Ruston High School. That's where we finished the season. And we had just kind of moved in over there. And so, but that summer, like, I was traveling around. I was working like what it was called 2D tournaments, which is similar to what like Impact and all that stuff is out here. I was just like running facilities and keeping gate and things like that. Trying to make some money. And yeah, so that we got to the kind of the end of that, and I was actually excited about the next year, even though we didn't have a facility to play at.
Yeah, especially you didn't have a field,
because we had just hired Mitch Gaspard, and Mitch Gaspard was the head coach at Alabama, and we just hired him. And I was pretty excited about working with him, because unbelievable human, like unbelievable human stud, like it's unreal. And so like I felt like our staff was incredible, and then we were on the quarter system, so we didn't start school until until September.
That's one of the first colleges I know that does that. That's interesting.
Yeah, like besides Stanford.
Yeah, well, they're different.
Yeah. But we hadn't started school yet. And so it was like I want to say the middle of August probably. Just Cliff basically called me and was like, hey, I think this might happen. I think Hunter Allen might take a job at UNCG.
Yeah, UNCG.
And are you interested in a volunteer? And I was like, yes. He's like, all right, sounds good. And that was about the extent of it, right? And so it took some time for that to actually
take place.
And then he was kind of working through Coach Lafferty, just because Coach was good about it, and the fact that he didn't want to get crazy with all of it, because I was a former player, and he wanted to make sure this was something that was going to happen. And so then he called me, I guess it had been the end of August, and said, "Hey, it's officially happening. I don't know, like, do you want to come up here and see the place?" And naturally, I'm like, "Well, yeah, you know,
Sign me up, sure."
It's like, yeah, absolutely. And so this happened on he called me probably like on a Thursday, or maybe a Wednesday, but maybe I can't
Around,
Wednesday,
yeah,
Thursday,
yeah.
right? The next day, I was on a plane to Greenville. I was there. I got there at like 8 o'clock.
Make stuff happen.
I got there at like 8 o'clock. Had dinner with Coach G at Nukes, RIP, RIP Nukes, and then the next morning we had Chris Howe
Oh no! Like this is like
on my visit.
like leadership training, Chris.
Yes.
Howe? Oh no,
And so,
dude.
on
You're
my-
probably like, oh
Yeah,
my god.
on my visit. On my visit,
Of course it was.
we got there. I was staying at Coach's house and staying in his upstairs.
Coach, you know these guys are players, not SEAls, right?
No, I thought it was awesome.
Well, yeah.
I thought it was great.
That's so
Of course,
funny,
I wasn't
dude.
doing it.
Yeah, I was
but
about to
thought
say
it
you
was
weren't the
great.
one to say. I bet you did think.
But
it was great. That's so
but
funny.
yeah, on my visit, it's like a 3:45 wake up call.
Yeah.
Go watch that stuff at 5 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
And
dude.
then it was like, that was like when I first saw the facility. It was like 4 in the morning. Like he took me through the hitting indoor, showed me what they're trying to do with the pitching indoor and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then like staff took me around and saw the rest of the university the rest of that day. And then I sat down with them in the afternoon. It was like, "You want the job?" And it's like, yeah. Again, I don't even know that we talked finances.
Yeah,
Like,
I no, of course not.
no idea. And don't mind my soon to be wife, right? Like,
Dude, yeah, well, she's like, so how much you getting paid, honey? I
Well-
just signed the paper and I still have no idea.
yeah, well, well, she was a nurse, so she did well
Yeah,
at that
yeah,
point. And so then I flew back to flew out of Jackson, Mississippi, and so I flew back to Jackson that night, and then drove to Ruston, and kind of took the weekend to basically get my stuff together. And then I sat down with Coach Burrows on Monday morning, told him I was leaving, and I got my truck and drove to Greenville.
How long of a drive is that?
Gosh, that was probably 14 hours at least.
Oh my gosh, alone too? Yeah, that's a lot of time to think.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even move my stuff out.
Really?
Yeah. I had just signed a lease. I had just signed a lease in Ruston, and I was about to sign a new lease. And so the first 4 or 5 months of being here,
You didn't have anything.
I was taking on double leases.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was taking on double leases, and which whatever, dude. Like,
You
look
gotta
at
do what
back,
you gotta do. It
gotta
still
what you gotta
sucks, though.
do. But and I got my stuff a couple months later, and all that stuff, and now here we are. But that's how the process was. That's how it was, and obviously was the volunteer assistant at that point.
When did Taylor end up moving in with you here?
After we got married.
No,
We got married in December of that same year,
Wow.
And so we moved all our stuff up there basically after Thanksgiving, and then she moved up with me after we finished up the holidays in December.
Fast train. Get on it or get under it. But I guess this was kind of going along with what you were talking about earlier, but you've gotten the chance to start a family here. You've made so many great relationships with players and coaches. I mean, we've had coaches file in and out, whether it be Blake or Colby or whatever it is, and you've played with some of the old or other guys, but you're now about to, it's crazy. You're now about to start your 6th year here, 4th year as a pitching coach. But how it, like you said, it wasn't always sunshine and rainbows kind of getting to this point, but how cool is it, not only just at East Carolina, but the entire playing and coaching career? How cool is it to see, like, God has actually put you in such a cool position to be able to have a son, win and host regionals,
Yeah.
get to meet some of your best friends that you'll cherish forever, but like do it all in a place where it is so special as it is, but in a place that you didn't even barely know until you got the call.
No doubt. It's really humbling, to be honest with you, because I know that the things that have happened and the opportunities that I've had in my life, they haven't come because of me. You know what I mean? Like, there's plenty of coaches and people who work their tail off their entire life and don't get the same opportunities that have happened in not that long of coaching, to be honest with you. And so I've been blessed, man. I've been blessed from every avenue, and every decision that we've made up to this point has been beneficial for my family, and job wise has been great. And so it's my job to obviously cherish that, honor that, but give back as much as I can to the players, to the university, to Coach Godwin, and obviously to honor God and everything that we do. You know what I mean? And so I understand that, that I'm not in control of this.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I'm not in control of the future either. I just, want to continue to work hard and help our players become better.
Yeah, and getting into you actually coaching here, I mean, COVID was weird as it was with 2020, but hitting on what you were talking about when you were talking about giving your all to your players and coaching them as hard as you could, making them better, you learn from a lot of great guys, but specifically Dietz.
The man.
Like the best. I mean, you got to learn from what, like, you were with him for, I guess, if you count 2 years technically, but only got to coach essentially a season with him. What were, like, I mean, just an incredible human being, so insanely smart about the game, pitching specifically. At that point, did you know you wanted to get into pitching, being the coach specifically the rest of your career? And, like, from him specifically, what did you learn? I mean, that guy is just a wealth of knowledge.
We were together for 2 years, right?
Yeah.
But we were so tight during those 2 years. Like, where Dietz was, AK was, unless I was throwing batting practice.
No, I
you know,
oh yeah,
like we were thick as thieves, man. And so, I can't specify like just one thing that I learned from Dietz because there was so much, and it was like two opposite thoughts of the game, in that he came from the West Coast where the game is different, right? And I grew up in the South where it's power arms, power bats,
exactly.
like, you know what I mean? And so there was so much from the mental game that I took away from him. But the biggest thing, like another guy who was just so empowering to me. And I was hard-headed, dude. Like, I would just take things to him and be like, this is what we need to do with Gavin or whoever.
Be like, Austin, shut up, dude.
Well, and that's the thing, though. He wouldn't. He'd be like, yeah, I like that. Or what do you think about this? He always handled it the right way. You know what I mean?
Special human.
Yeah. He always handled it well. And my favorite thing about Dietz is, like, working with him is awesome. And like the games were great because we would sit there and we would talk the game together and we would call pitches together. But he always took care of me and Taylor off the field.
Yeah.
He would take us to eat, you know what I mean? And
that's awesome.
and pay for everything. And he was just one of those guys, man, like that. No matter what, he'll always be one of my closest friends.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I will always have the utmost respect in my life for that guy, because he was also like one of the guys that Coach G was like, "Hey, hire AK," and he was like, "Absolutely, you have to hire him." You know what I mean?
I remember that.
And so he had my back in that situation, but how he was, he's such a wise,
he's such a smart ass dude.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Drives me nuts.
That's what I was going to say. And so, like, that was the fun part of it,
His humor is unmatched.
Oh, dude.
Never met anybody with him like
just the wisecracks that he would have.
All
and
the time.
The one-liners. And we'd be in the bullpen.
And what have you.
Yeah, and what have you. And he'd be hitting you guys with one-liners, and I'd be over there laughing.
Yeah, because you
tail off.
We would never, especially as freshmen, like me, Josh, and Landon were the only 3 pitchers in our class. And he just absolutely mentally just killed us because we didn't like. There were so many times where he would say a joke or say something not jokingly, but we would never know if he was serious or not. And then there were other times where we could see like Cameron Bridge or you just like behind him like laughing because they knew, but we're just like and it's the way he is, man. It's how he rolls.
Yeah, but we had such a good working relationship, like no other. Honestly, it was just. It was tremendous. It was so much fun we shared an office together. You know what I mean? And so we were always talking crap or, talking about you guys getting better. And that was pretty much it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so it was incredible, but what an awesome person and what an awesome family. I'm still thankful, obviously, that we get to see them because they still have a house here and they're around at times. And when they're around, it's the same old deal, man.
Yeah. Some things never change.
Yeah. But gosh, it's just an ace of a human being.
One thing that I want to commend him and you for is I was one of the few guys that got to experience him and you, and then you and Heath for 4 years. Mm-hmm. So I got, obviously, you and Dietz for a year, and then Heath didn't even get brought in until like Christmas of the fall of 21. It was later. But to see how, like, I got to experience non-pitching Coach AK as opposed to other guys that were on the team at the time. Sorry. And it was very cool to see how I could see how he treated you, and he always would give you crap all the time, but at the end of the day, like you said, love on you and treat you right. And to see how you've reciprocated that and done that with Heath when Heath was in the same position you were, it is very cool to see you in your element of even when you're in the fight of a game, or me and Trey walk in your office and we're just shooting the crap. Like, it is so cool to see you guys interact because I see you, because people don't know, he is now overtaken Dietz's desk. AK has. So like he has the same little seat, like sits back, and it's like I can see you two, and I can see you in Heath's seat and Dietz in your seat, and it's so cool to see how you've been able to develop. And I sound like an old guy, but like see you develop and like see how you've like treated him,
young man.
Because exactly. But it's just like it's cool to see. I don't know. It's one of those little things that I've gotten to experience and see how all our coaches, not just you, develop into better human beings as times ran on.
Yeah, I think I can always be better at it, but and he's not young anymore. I mean, he's older and he's got 2 kids and a family.
Yeah,
but it goes even as far as to the student managers and the graduate assistants and things like that. Like, you got to build those guys up because ultimately, hopefully, they're the next coaches. They're the next line. And I've always had people that did that for me. You know what I mean? And so you always got to keep that in mind. And you want to, because those guys they're not doing what they want to do. You know what I mean?
You're spot on.
Like, Heath wants to be a pitching coach one day, right? Like, all those student assistants, like, they have bigger goals than what they're doing now. But for our game to continue to get better, at this level, and to
guys like that.
You have to have guys like that grow in the ranks and get better over time. And so, again, I can be much better at it, but I don't ever want them to think that they're not appreciated for the work that they do and not heard, right?
Yeah.
And so that's, again, because you've been on both sides of it as a coach, and you've been in those offices where maybe the opinion wasn't valued as much, and you've been in them where guys made you feel like you were $100 every day.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so it's you always want when guys leave your program, when coaches leave your program for better opportunities, you want them to think, like, look back and say, that guy, like the way I just talked about Dietz, right? Like, that's
exactly.
what you want.
Leave a legacy.
Yes.
It's spot on.
Yes.
Yeah. And everybody that has coached here the last 4 years, and players included, have left a good legacy, and that's why we're still in the position we are with being able to win and stuff. But there's going through the years that you've been here, at least with 2020 and COVID, 2021 learning under Dietz, 22 a magical run with no set rotation, pretty much. Like, we literally didn't have a rotation pretty much the entire year. I mean, we had Wiz, the whole thing would happen with him, and then Mayhew steps up, and it was jumbled up all throughout the year. And then 2023, you have the 3 stars at the beginning of the year that, like, were unhittable for 3 months of the season. And then last year, you have 3 or 4 main guys get hurt in some form or fashion. What, I guess, lessons can you take from those years of the rides, the highs, the lows? But, like, what's one thing, and then you might not be able to name one specific thing, but from all those years collectively, is there one thing that you can take going forward, being, to use to be a better coach?
I think it's simple, is that there's not a right answer. You know what I mean?
It's also a good answer. Yeah.
Like, truly, there's not a right answer. Every year presents different adversity, different strengths. There's not one way to do anything. You know what I mean? And so having the ability to be creative, and be creative with development, but being creative about how you approach a game as well. Mm-hmm. I think you always have to have that, because as soon as you think, well, this is what it's going to look like, last year's going to happen where 3 out of your 4 guys get hurt, or in 23 we have unbelievable starting rotation, and then guys struggle a little bit and things get jumbled up, right? In 22 was the most fun year, because even though it didn't look like we had a rotation, we had a rotation.
Yeah, we knew.
And we knew what we were doing with it every single day. It was like, this guy, Mayhew was the catalyst of it.
Yeah, for sure, no doubt.
Like, Mayhew was the guy who could give us length on Friday so that Saturday and Sunday we could do what we wanted to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Spot on.
But it was like, this guy's going to start here. He's going to give us 2 to 3. And then we're going to unleash the horses.
And then the 6 guys in the bullpen that throw every single game, have fun with them, because they're coming out.
And they're exactly right. And you look up in our bullpen. I mean, gosh, I don't even know what our bullpen ERA was there.
There's no way it was over 3. There's no
shot. It was probably a 2 or a 1, because we give up 4 runs in the first 2 innings, and then we give 7 shutouts
every time.
You know what I mean?
It's so funny, dude.
And that's what I mean. Like, that was the most fun year. Mm-hmm. Because it was just so
chaotic,
off the wall and different.
There's no script ever.
And so, like, I think you got to take the lessons and just say, hey, man, like, There's no right way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, everybody would love to have, DeGrom on Friday and
well, no kidding. Yeah, of course.
And Scooble on Saturday and all that stuff. And like, I would love to have Trey on Friday every single year for the rest of my life. You know what I mean?
Make your life a lot easier.
But it's not, it's like as a coach, you got to figure it out, man. And you got to figure it out, and you got to take the lessons, you got to apply them, and you got to learn from them, and you got to self-reflect every single year, whether it goes good, whether it goes bad, whether you're really good. Well, how can we get better, right? What do I need to change in my plan to help us get better?
And that's part of growing, dude. Like if you stay stagnant, your team's gonna stay stagnant, the staff's gonna stay stagnant. I mean, you've been a part of strikeout records, no hitters, a ton of stuff. But if you don't grow on that and learn from it, even if it's good or bad, then there's no way you're going to get better.
And the difference is also is that the players know. And what I mean by that, they know if you know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
No,
like they know if you're full of it, or they know it's like, hey, this guy's convicted in this, and he's done his homework, and he knows what he's talking about, and he knows how this is going to help me get better.
Yeah,
right. And so the education piece of it never stops. It's like you always have to pay attention. You always have to learn. That's any industry that you're in.
And it's good because any of the guys that have ever had success has trusted the process of what, like, you think of any of the guys that have had success here, Gavin, and I'll have a list of names here in a second for the next question, but you're spot on of like, they've trusted whoever's coaching them, whether it was you, whether it was Dietz, whether it was Coach G, whatever it is. They have went in, whether it was blind trust or not at the time, it worked out because you guys knew what you were talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And now it's just easier to make decisions based on the information that's in front of you, because you have more resources. Yeah. You got TrackMan, you got everything that you need. And so it's like, all right, buddy, come sit down.
Yeah.
Look at this. This is what you need to do to get better. This is how we're going to do better. And here we go. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's easier now. In a time where, I say it's easier because, some kids it's not easier. 10 years ago, if someone told me to stand on my head and hit, I probably would have done it if I thought it was going to help me get better or if I trusted my coach. But now it's just easier to create buy-in if you have the information in front of you.
And you've got a good track record with the people that have done it too.
Well, whatever. Like you're only as good as your players in all reality. Like, but either way, it's like when a freshman comes in and I present them this, he's not going to go, well, Trey didn't do that or he did do that. It's like, no, how is that going to help me get better? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's where I have to have my stuff in line so that, they obviously understand it and they'll buy into it.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about like the best guys that you've had the privilege to be able to coach, but I mean,
Danny Beal.
No, I'm not on this list. But like the Gavins, the Whizzes, the Spivies, the Sailors, like Trey, Shank, Root, like all these guys had so much insane success and are going to have big league careers. What is there one particular thing that you've noticed over time that they all had in common that all made them like, all right, this guy's a dude, whether it's the mental side, the physical side, whatever it was, but is there one thing that you look at those guys like they all had this one thing?
Gosh, that's a really good question. Maybe on both sides of it we'll talk. All right, so physically and mentally. Mentally, when they got on the field, they were all killers, every one of them. You know what I mean? Like they all were so competitive. When you think of Trey's the best competitor I've probably ever coached. Spivey's there close to him. Gavin, gosh, like
Stud.
Unbelievable. I hate when people ask who's better, between him and Trey.
I still don't have an answer. I don't know.
Because they're both so dominant, but they're dominant in different ways. They when they got on the field, you never had to worry about if they were going to figure it out. Like, think about how many bad outings did those guys have?
Two.
Yeah,
I think Trey had a bad outing at UTSA, and I think Gavin pitched like crap against Charlotte in the regional. Those are the only two times I've ever seen them pitch bad, ever.
That's what I mean.
Ever.
And there's also times that they went out there and they really just didn't have anything also. And they still
figured it out.
Yeah. And, like their stuff was really good, of course. But, I mean, what makes them different from Johnny Schmo who throws 100 down the road who can't get any outs? You know what I mean? And so I just think that all those guys were insane competitors on the field. It didn't mean that they were like that off the field or even in their preparation. But when a batter stepped in, it was like, you got no shot, bro.
Yeah.
And then physically, as from a pitching specific, it's like they all had an identity, right? It's like they all knew like this is what makes me good, you know. Every one of them, you know, Root with the changeup and the fastball, and then we developed the secondary pitches a little bit more. Spivey with the cutter, like once he got the cutter, it was over for him. He was like, yeah, I'm gonna rip this. You're not gonna hit it, you know.
You know it's coming too.
Yeah, Trey with all of his secondary pitches.
Trey with everything, yeah.
You know, Gavin with his fastball, but you know, obviously him developing some secondaries his last year helped him immensely. Sailor with his slider and then the sinker at times for him, right? It's like all those guys had an identity of what they were going to do, and they owned it. And there wasn't much like, hey, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to try this. It was like, no, this is what I throw.
Yeah. No, you're spot on. It's the same thing with me with sidearm.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what makes you good, so keep doing it.
Yeah. It's not like once we got it dialed in with all those guys, it's like, let's just let it roll, baby. Yeah, you know, like sure. you're in a good spot now. And so I think those two things for all those guys who had success was like consistent for all of them, you know.
There you go, recruits. That's how you be a pirate and coach night ties. This is one question that I have actually wondered for a long time. What is it like coaching? Like, you talk about hitters getting hot, swinging a hot bat. Like, you've seen it over the postseason in college and in pros for years. What is it like coaching a pitcher that's hot? Like, the two guys that come to mind are obviously Spivey and even Shank this past year, but like guys that literally you can roll them out day after day after day, whether it's 3 times in a weekend or whether it's 1 time a week, and you know they're not getting touched.
It's very freeing because it makes you think that like it doesn't matter what you do.
Everything you do is just touch the goal. It doesn't matter.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I loved when Spivey would come in 22 because it was just like, there's one button. You know what I mean?
Cutter.
Yeah.
Cutter.
Yeah. Cutter.
Yeah.
Fastball up.
Bend, cutter.
Slider.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
so it's like, it makes you feel like you're not going to, like, for me, it makes me feel like I'm not going to screw up the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If somebody hits a home run, it's not my fault. Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's not like, it doesn't make me feel like any better at my job.
Yeah.
It just makes me feel like that guy is so good that I'm not going to be the one that messes it up
today. Spot on.
You know?
It's so funny because, like, even during Spivey's run, it was just like, this doesn't make any sense because he's sucked every year before this. It's just like but now all of a sudden he's turned it on, and what is the reasoning? Blah, 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 blah. And people looked at you initially because it was your first year coaching, and that was his first year of success. So it's like, we got the guy. Like, this is our savior.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's like, looking at it in hindsight, it's like, it's so crazy to see. Because I'm a pitcher, so I always find it fascinating when pitchers get hot. Like, you see relievers do in the pros where they throw every game. But it's always been fascinating to me. It's like, what's the mindset when you're calling pitches? Just like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I press. They're not going to hit it.
You know, like, I'm a pretty big believer in that anyway. Like, you know, it doesn't really, like, there's certain, certain times where it's like the guy who's calling the game really, really makes a difference. Sure. Certainly. But I'm also a believer that, like, the pitcher's going to go after guys with their strengths, and it doesn't really matter if they execute their pitches, you're going to get outs. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But again, like I said, it's just, you're just chilling, man. Yeah. You're just watching those guys go play free, and it's fun. You know, it's just enjoyable. It's like it's a very comfortable feeling because you know you're going to win. You know what I mean?
Doesn't get much better.
Yeah.
Would you rather have a dominant starter like Trey was, or a dominant reliever like Spivey was?
Gosh almighty, man. I don't know.
It's tough because Trey and I were talking
probably
about
a reliever, but probably a reliever, but it can't be like, you can't just have one dominant reliever if you don't have starters.
For sure. No doubt.
You know what I mean?
No doubt.
Like, you still have to have guys that can give you length, you know, but probably a reliever because it's a really good feeling whenever, you know, you bring a guy in at the end of the game, you know the game's over.
Yeah.
You know?
No doubt. I mean, because we asked Coach Palumbo when he was on Pirate Radio Live, and we were like, who is the best player over the last 10 years you've been here? And it's like, well, it's a tough question because do you pick a starter? He pitches once a week.
Yeah.
Do you pick a two-way guy like Zach or Burley because they do both? Do you pick a hitter that was just dominant? And it's a good question because I immediately thought, I was like, well, would I rather have Trey or Gavin, or would I rather have Spivey or Sailor? And I don't know. I still don't know. And
no,
it's
I
like,
don't either.
It's tough because, I mean, if you have like,
I got an idea. What if we had both?
I'm in. I think everybody agrees to that. I don't know. I think that's a win-win for everybody. It's so funny because it's just, I don't know. You have a guy that can pitch 3 times in a weekend. it comes by sparingly, but like there are guys that can do that. Or you could have a guy that goes not. I don't know. It's a question that will be differed and answers from time to time.
And it just really depends on your team, man.
Yeah.
It depends on what you got. It depends on what your offense is like, what kind of game you play.
Yeah.
What does your starting pitching look like whenever you have those type of relievers? Yeah. Back in the day, they used to do the closer start on Sunday. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it would be like. Stephen Head, who was an Ole Miss guy, he was a student assistant there. He's like, I think he's a cross checker or something with the Dodgers now, but he would play first base, two-way player, right? He would close on Fridays and he would start on Sundays.
That's unreal. Yeah. Good for that guy.
And he hit the whole weekend and raked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that used to be the thing. It's like, no, we're not going to have a Sunday guy because the closer is going to start on Sunday.
It's a beautiful thing. That's the way baseball should be. There's hopefully another ECU pitching great in the next batch of guys. And one name that's been popping up a lot recently just because of the anonymity of a lot of the pitching staff with a lot of new guys. And obviously you have like the Delos, the Norbies, the Jadens of the world who have been here for a while. But there's one guy, and he's 17 years old, who's actually been pretty highly touted in terms of freshmen in the country and all that stuff. And he's getting more and more publicity as the season gets closer because people are finally trying to learn his name and, come see him pitch. But Sean Jenkins is projected to be a starter for you guys. What has he showed in the fall and the preseason so far?
Maturity beyond
and he's
17-year-old, and it doesn't mean it's perfect. You know what I mean? There's still been times where we've had to talk and like, he's like a super perfectionist. You know what I mean? Works unbelievably hard. Like
voted number one hardest worker, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, but it's real. You know what I mean? Like it is like every night he's there doing extra something. Whether it's mobility, whether it's arm care, whether it's mechanical work. Like very diligent, in tune with himself, understands how to apply. Coaching quickly. Just mature beyond, but still like immature in some manners in that he doesn't understand he's not going to be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which is hard to realize as a kid that's that young and that talented.
Oh, for sure.
They feel like they're world stoppers.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. I don't know how you could. I mean, dude, like you're 17 years old.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
It's going to happen.
But super talented. Super talented. I mean, in the fall, I think there was times he's like 94, 96 with 4 pitches for strikes.
Like, dude, what?
And tons of strikes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's probably, for the rest of his career, probably mid-range of what he's going to throw harder than that.
Yeah, the ceiling is unbelievable.
Yeah, the ceiling's really high. IQ is really high. Understands what he's trying to do. Like, super advanced, and it has the makings and the makeup of being an elite arm for sure. Now, is it fair to just like put expectations on him immediately as a freshman?
But that's what people are going to do. Of course. Yeah.
Of course. And it's the natural human thing to do. But, like expectations should be that he's going to grow over time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure.
And like he may go out and dominate from pitch one and be one of the best ever here. He could. But
that should not be the expectation.
But that shouldn't be the expectation for everyone to think, right?
And it's frustrating just because the last couple of years we've had, like, more often than not, we've had the guy. Like, we've had a guy. And this year with, like I said, so much anonymity, it's kind of missing. So I feel like they're going to put him in an unfair position to be like, well, you have to fill the role because somebody's got to do it. Yeah. And if he's pitching on Friday nights, I'm excited to see him because he is going to dominate because he is an absolute stud. And like you said, he's mature beyond his years. He is for sure an old soul, but it is exciting stuff when someone that young and that talented gets to get under some good tutelage and playing high-end baseball.
And I think he's in a good place because of how much talent there is around him too, and there's enough pieces around him that hopefully he doesn't feel like he's got to be the guy. Yeah. I think it's more of a collaborative staff effort this year where everyone matters and you can have more depth.
As opposed to Danny making 40 appearances a year?
Well, I would still do that, But
on one leg.
But oh, here we go.
Yeah,
the sob story.
The pity party.
Yeah. Oh, my knee. My knee hurts, coach.
Oh my gosh. This is why I didn't put myself on the list. I'm not there yet.
Danny, I've told you this already though. All right, so we're gonna go self-advertise
Can we
with
not?
self-marketing for Danny.
Can we not?
Danny is one of the best relief pitchers that East Carolina has ever had. Like the longevity, his durability, the ability to go post every single time we asked him to. The amount of "Are you okays" that he gets from the fans, like "Are you okay?" Like.
I'm fine.
Right? He's fine.
I'm fine. Don't worry about it. It's not your business.
It's actually when he gets more rest, he actually sucks.
It's actually it's the weirdest thing because we had so many conversations about this. I remember at Tulane, I had pitched 3 games in a row. I pitched 3 games in a row in the regional too, but the Tulane specifically, I was toast. I can say it now. I was hurting. I was hurting really bad. But I hate them. So I wanted to beat them really bad. So on Sunday when I knew we didn't really have much left, I'm like, I think you said this on radio one time. I literally texted you and I was like, I got it. Just give it to me. I'll close my eyes. I'll take Advil. I'll get through it.
Yeah.
But it's purely because I literally, and I say this to so many people, and I still, in the right moment, get emotional about it. I just wanted to win.
Yeah.
I did not care I just wanted to win.
For sure.
And the good thing is we had such good people around us last year with Shank and me and Trey and Roop to set the standard of do whatever it takes. It does not matter. And to see, and I still have conversations with like Norby and D'Lo and them handing it down to the other guys. It is special to see because I'm not taking credit for that. Like that was a Bridgie and Cam thing that they put in me. It's like,
well, it's Bridgie and Cam in their 6th year wanting to pitch every single game of a 4-game weekend.
And it didn't matter because they just wanted to win.
Because they just wanted to win. And it doesn't matter. And as you get older and you get away from like, oh, my draft stock and things of that nature, like that's what it becomes. Is like, I just want to win. I don't care. Like, I love this place. I just want to win games.
It was never about like, I need to pitch better so I can get a better chance of getting like, I don't think anybody thought that.
Yeah.
Even through, obviously Cambridge were weird because they were 40 years old, but like even with like Spivey, like he didn't care. He just wanted to win.
He didn't care.
Sailor didn't care. He just wanted to win.
That's right.
Same thing with Trey. Like it is few and far between that you find guys like that with the way college sports is heading, just because it's also money based and you can make more money in college than you can in the pros now in some sports. And it sucks. But
it's
at the end of the day, it's not good, but it is what it is. And there's nothing we can do. It's sit about on these couches. So it is. I just wanted to win, and I know that was the sentiment from everybody else on that team. But enough about me. Enough. Jeez Louise.
We had to get it out there, though.
I guess you said it on radio a little while ago, but I don't know. It's one of those things where it didn't matter what it took, and everybody had the same mindset. It didn't matter how we felt either. But again, we make jokes about Chris Alba. That's why we do that stuff. Like it puts you in the mindset of like, yeah, you feel like crap, but you got to get up and go do it again. And it's the same thing we were talking about with the monotonous stuff with you at Little Rock and La Tech too. It's like it's not the most attractive stuff, but it's got to get done, and you might not want to do it, but guess who's got to do it?
Yeah, guess who's got to do it, and guess what happens if you don't do it?
See ya.
That's right.
All right. Well, a couple more questions. You've been so incredibly gracious with your time. You didn't have to do this, even if I did force you to just say what you just said, but no big deal.
I read from a prompt.
Yeah, exactly. There's you guys can't see it though. It's there for a reason. But this is the first thing that pops into your head. What is the favorite team? I guess I say favorite team. Now you can take this from two perspectives: favorite team that you've gotten to coach, or favorite team that you've been a part of in terms of playing and coaching. Is there one that comes to mind? And I feel like I know the answer, but is there one that comes to mind that's like, yep, that's the one?
Favorite one?
Yeah.
Like most fond of?
In terms of whether we won or lost, the experiences you had, what was the favorite team you've ever been a part of?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, it's hard not to say 22.
Yeah, that's everybody's answer for sure.
It's
so special.
Yeah, that one was just, it was unique. You know what I mean? It's just different when you have to battle through so much like we did that year, and just so much stuff was going on. You know what I mean?
So much weird stuff too, like that Memphis game with Mayhew, like the first Super Regional hosted 20-game win streak. Like there's so much weird stuff that we battled through. It's just
it was crazy. Odd. It was like I mean. It's just the beginning parts of that set us up for the end, definitely, and us figuring things out. But there was just, so much.
14 and 13, I didn't even mention that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was, gosh.
500 through 30 games.
We were so bad. So bad. Like truly.
So bad. We lost to Cincinnati.
We were
that doesn't happen.
We were horrible.
Not good.
Early in the season.
Very bad.
And then we were unbelievable.
And
I've never seen a change like that.
It was so drastic. Like it's just there. I refuse to believe that there will be anything like that happens again, where a team starts so bad and then turns it into something so good.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, there may be win streaks like that, and I think Tennessee won like 60 games this past year.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Unreal.
So there may be winning streaks like that, but the way that happened is you just don't see it.
No,
you know,
sure don't.
So. That one was probably the favorite. I thought our best team was 21.
We just ran into like literally the worst draw we could have possibly gotten.
Yeah.
If we play any other team, I think we win.
Yeah, I just thought that team was
studs.
Yeah, really good, but like made for it. You know what I mean?
No, for sure.
Like
the people that were playing in the game, in the fight, were built for those kind of games and those kind of environments. And they've been bad with us too. We were very, I thought, relatively old that year too with pitching.
we were on both sides of it.
Yeah,
both sides of it. Experienced, and then
helps when you have a leadoff hitter that hits 450 too.
Does help. Helps a lot.
Yeah.
But I feel like if we played 4-game weekends the whole year in conference, I feel like if we didn't play a 4-game weekend, I don't know if we lost a game.
The 4 games is tough because it's like Gavin throws 15 strikeouts against Wichita State and we blow them out, and then 2 hours later we get run rolled. And
yeah,
it's like,
crazy
stuff like that happens in 4-game weekends. But if it's 3, it's maybe a little different.
Yeah, and I think Carson was down at some point during that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah.
All right. Next question is, what's one piece of memorabilia that you show off, whether it's in your office or your house? It could be baseball or it couldn't be, but one thing that people come over and you're like, dude, you got to see this.
God, one thing. Oh my gosh, dude.
Hard-hitting questions today.
One thing that you got to see. Well, in my garage, I've got a little man cave in there now.
I heard you.
Is that I showed you that, right? But
and the bar.
But stop. But I have our 2014 picture from the College World Series.
Oh, that's sweet.
Hung up in there. Obviously, I've got our ring. The rings are whatever, like.
That's more for like other people to see. Like I am the same way. I don't really like have a lot of bearing in the rings. Like it's like cool to like put on and show, but like I don't really.
Yeah, I mean. I probably show off more pictures of my son than anything, to be honest with you, and things of that nature. That's
a pretty cool piece of memorabilia.
Yeah, it's a pretty. It's lifelike.
Yeah, it sure is. It talks too. It's crazy.
Well, I've got that picture above my desk with him.
When he was
I got
a kid.
another thing too.
Yeah.
But that picture of him when he was a kid.
Yeah, that was in 22.
When he was really young, when after we beat Virginia that night, and I will always remember that for the rest of my life because it was late, way past his bedtime, and he was just like so happy.
Yeah,
he's not even a year old, and he's like so happy and smiling, and I just remember that was like one of the coolest moments ever.
As compared to this past weekend when he was at his birthday party, he was staring at the kick and he looked like this.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's like it's try to take him when you get him.
Yeah, he's full on teenager at 3 at this point. And then Trey put that academic All-American certificate on my board in there.
Ridiculous.
And it's from 23 and I haven't moved it.
If you were to take it off, it'd probably leave a stain on the bulletin board.
I'm gonna keep that one up for a little bit. I asked for his academic All-American thing from this year, so I'm curious if he'll give that to me.
Academic All-American, dude. Jeez Louise.
He was on my academic team.
So. Yeah, of course he was. All right, next question. When is the time that you've gotten the most mad at an umpire? Is there one game that comes to mind where you're like, I'm gonna kill this dude?
Yes, but I'm trying to remember the game. There's definitely been a couple.
There's been quite a few like just random conference games where you're like, I can't get tossed, but CG go yell at him.
I think like the maddest that I've ever been was I think it was in the conference tournament when they called the pitch clock violation not on Tony, on Shinkman. Do you remember that?
Was that this past year? Or
No, that was 23.
I don't think I did.
They called one on Shinkman Shinkman never works slow.
No, that's what I remember because that was your argument. He's like, dude, he throws the ball 12 seconds every single time left off. They must have screwed it up or something or not reset it.
Tony earned that, dude. I wasn't
that.
mad about that one. I was like, he earned that
because he's like flapping his wings.
Yeah, dude, he's charging it up, man. He's pumping it up.
Awesome.
But but that one was Shankman. I was livid, and there's been a couple. Coach G's had to tell me to shut up in the dugout a couple times, but not this past year as much. In 23, there was more for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, that's like the maddest I've been.
There's so many times where me and Trey will be sitting next to you, whether they're on pitch chart or whatever, and just some of the stuff that you say, and deservedly so, but like just letting them have it, which they need to hear sometimes because sometimes they do stupid stuff.
Yeah, but that's one of Coach G's things that the assistants can't get thrown out, and so I got to. Sometimes it's got to be a little bit more under my breath than allowed, So,
jeez Louise.
But there's been plenty, with Coach Goblin that I've been like, I understand this.
Yeah, no, I get it. That was one of the questions I asked him. I was like, "What is the most reasonable ejection?" He was like, "J-Dub's home run."
Yeah, I mean, ridiculous, right?
I didn't see.
Yeah.
You serious?
Yeah, that one. I mean, no, you have to see.
Yeah, no, that's literally your job.
No, whatever, man. That was part of that story that.
Exactly. It's open weekend. Jeez Louise. All right, two more. Favorite game that you've ever been a part of? And again, I'm sorry for putting you on the spot. I probably should have told you these before, but
no, it's fine. I just got to think. I'm trying to think back.
And these can be from playing days too, if you want.
For sure.
Either way.
All right, so we'll start in 2014. We're gonna start there.
Okay.
We played the Super Regional at Louisiana Lafayette.
Oh yeah, the Raging Cajuns.
Yeah, and we got kind of boat raced in game one, and then the second game was just unbelievable. It's like a 2-1 game. There's like a double hit down the line. We threw a guy out at the plate. It was just electric the whole time.
And the crowd's nuts there, dude.
Yeah, it was nuts. It's kind of like our place a little bit, just like crazy. Down there is like crazy Cajun fans, right?
And they're all drunk.
Similar to here.
Yeah,
but
never change.
Yeah, but electric, and we beat them 2-1 on that night, and we hit a home run late, and it was just one of those games. Like every pitch
mattered,
right? Yeah. Mattered. Okay, and then we ended up winning and going to the College World Series the next day. We put it on pretty good. That was super memorable because Ole Miss hadn't been to the College World Series.
It was a while, wasn't it?
In a long time, like 42 years or something like that. And that was the first time Coach Bianco had made it there. And so that was awesome. Obviously, man, like Trey's game last year with Chase Burns, like, dude, man, like as a coach, you're just sitting there and you're like, bro, this is unreal.
Yeah, well, it's just the atmosphere because that was, let's call it Space Spade. That was supposed to be the night game.
Yeah,
neither of us were supposed to lose, but that was supposed to be the matchup. The fact we got an elimination game just raised the stakes so much higher.
Yeah, for sure. And like what he was able to do after his incident and after what he had to go through, and like there was never any doubt in Trey's mind that he was going to pitch.
No,
you know what
I
mean?
No,
like, and there was never any doubt like that he was going to go and pitch well.
Yeah, no,
and me, I'm like just stressing out the whole week.
Well, because it's so up in the air.
Well, it's so had a hole in his lung. But it's not even that. It's like because I know this kid's going to go pitch, but is he okay?
Yeah, and it's like, is he going to be okay in like the fifth inning when he's at 100 pitches?
That's right.
And he's breathing hard, and it's like
that's right. But when he went out there in that first inning and first pitch out, and I think he punched out the next two guys. I'm like,
and he punched out Chris. I'm like, yeah, we're here.
Yeah,
he's not leaving.
And I'm like, all right,
we're good.
It's on, right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And so like that, and then of course Burns is unbelievable talent.
He's
and so just that game was, I wish that regional finished a little bit better, but that game, I know, that game in itself was just like so electric.
Oh my gosh. The rest of that weekend was, dude. Like,
yeah.
Oh, man. I mean, just from obviously the fact that the weight game ended on the fact that we blew the lead and then we walked it off and then we beat VCU and then we beat Evansville. And it's like, it was almost like it was, because I've told this story before on the podcast, but we beat Evansville Sunday night. And sorry. We beat Wake on Saturday afternoon. And Saylor was there and Franny was obviously in the dugout and so was Pack. And after the game, Saylor was like, well, that now you beat them. There's no way you lose the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then Pack and Franny had said the same thing to me like earlier in the day. And I'm like, all right, this is because it was literally the 19 regional where it's like you beat the big dog and then there's nobody else left.
Weirdly, I knew we were going to win that game.
The weight game? Or
the weight game. I just knew, I just know how Coach is, dude. Like, whenever you face arms like that, he's going to, he's going to find a way to score some runs off that guy. You know what I mean?
Oh, gosh.
I knew we were going to win that game. But so like those are a couple of memorable ones. I think back to 22, whenever Zach closed out Virginia and Coastal, that was emotional.
Oh, of course, with Nico for sure.
Yeah, that was emotional. Obviously, the whole Texas Super, it was wild, but I hate thinking about at this point. I'm trying to think of what else.
Me too.
Oh, and then 21, whenever Kumar and Gavin pitched against each other.
Like
the Kumar and Gavin outing and the Burns and Trey outing are like those are the two that I think about. I'm like, this isn't college baseball.
No, this is
what I mean.
No, I mean it was especially in both atmospheres too. I mean it was different because it was a super regional. It was game one. It was an elimination game, but like the heaviness and the eyes that were on those games because everybody knows all four of those guys are going to be big leaguers.
Yeah.
So it's like you said, it's not college baseball.
Yeah, especially that first game because whenever you feel like there's heaviness and something behind every pitch thrown, like there's implications behind every single pitch thrown, those are always memorable games. You know what I mean?
It means that much more.
That's how that one felt. That's how Trey's game against Wake felt. But yeah, I mean, those are probably the most memorable that I can think of to this point. Especially in college for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, last one. What is there one guy that comes to mind that kind of set the standard for what it takes to be a great here? And it could be a dude that you didn't even coach. It could be a dude that you have coached. It could be anybody. But is there one guy that comes to mind where it's like if everybody was, and I know the answer, but if there was one guy that everybody was like,
you don't know the answer.
I know, I 100%. Yeah, I'm asking you the question, so you answer.
You don't know the answer. Finish your question.
Is there one guy? Is there one guy that you think has set the standard for what it takes to be an ECU great and a great ECU pitcher and a great teammate?
I think Bridgie and Cam for sure, man. Like those guys were awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I go back to those. It's like you said earlier. They just wanted to win, man, and they'd do anything, and they cared about this place so much. Obviously, it's easy to say Trey. For many reasons, right? But not everyone is blessed with the talent that Trey has and the ability to do that. But like his ability to still be a good teammate and to work hard and to do everything he's supposed to do, like that's where other players can impact the team in such a high manner. It's like you don't have to be that guy. You know what I mean? And now it's super beneficial when you are that guy
exactly.
and you have that sort of work ethic and things of that nature. I mean, Cam, Bridgie, hell, you can go back and like Mayhew worked his tail off. He was awesome here. Saylor and Spivey those last 2 years were awesome to be around. Jake Hunter, man.
The best.
You know what I'm saying?
Consummate professional. The absolute best.
Like Jake Hunter is a guy that has had an awesome career, but may still get slept on because of some of the guys in his class that have been unbelievable. But that dude, I mean, he's developed into a leader because he's had to, basically, right? And he's good at it. But that guy has just put his head down, worked his tail off, done everything asked. He's in a hard major. He's a good pitcher. You know what I mean? Like that's like kind of the epitome of it, I mean, yourself, dude. Like there's so many of them. You know what I mean? Like guys that will just go and just do the dirty work, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that's what it is, and that's what it takes. There's a glamour around Trey and Gavin Williams and all these guys, but it's not always glamorous to have to do the dirty work. And that's why I said Bridgie. That's why I said Cam. That's why I said you. That's why I said Jake Hunter. That's why I said CJ Mayhew. Like guys like that were professionals, that worked their tail off, that were consistent, that were reliable. Like that to me is. That's what it means, That's what it means to be in our program specifically, like how to be a great Pirate.
Yeah, spot on. Well, dude, I took way more time than I anticipated, but we were having a good conversation, so I didn't want to stop it. But obviously, I'm so incredibly grateful that you took the time to come on, and obviously, you mean a lot to me, and I'm very, very grateful for everything that you've done for me. So thank you for hanging out for a little bit.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me for sure, dude. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, good. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that interview with AK. Obviously, a ton of great conversations revolving his coaching career and his playing career, but cool stories to tell. Learn some more about his family and inside his life, and obviously looking forward to the upcoming season. Opening day is just a few weeks away, but hope you guys enjoyed it, and tune in next time.